Chapter 24. Negotiation. Obviously, he had thought way too quickly when he had decided that perhaps Sauron had changed a bit. It had been a simple mistake to make, however. He hadn't done anything really terrible for the last 3 weeks. In that amount of time, it would have been easy to forget the remark he had made the night of his return. So now Haldir was sitting in the kitchen, very perturbed. That morning he had been in an all-right mood, all things considered. But ever since he had sat down at the table, his mood had instantly soured. He was stuck to the table. Yes, he was stuck to the table. His leg was irrevocably latched to it at the moment by some strange-looking device. While he wasn't sure how everything had worked, he did know how he got in the present situation. The root of the problem was sitting in front of him. Haldir sighed and set his chin in his hand.
"And what is this for?"
he asked, pulling at his leg for the roughly 3 inches it would go and listening to the clunk of the metal against the wood table leg.
"I need to ask for a favor,"
Sauron said.
"You know, normally when a person wants a favor, they don't go about it by locking people to tables,"
he seethed, yanking at the thing again for emphasis. While he did wince slightly, Sauron shrugged.
"I don't have very good negotiation skills. I know. See, normally for me, my negotiations work by making an offer that, if refused, is countered by me sending out a massive army to crush those who denied the offer. So, considering the luck that I had last time trying to negotiate with you, I decided to act in a way that was closer to my normal means of operation."
"And how do you think that this will get me to cooperate with your little scheme?"
Sauron did not answer, but walked over to the counter, picking up a large plate piled with food.
"Eleth had to leave early today,"
he began, sitting back down at the table and picking through the food while at the same time seeming to try and suppress what was turning out to be a pretty demonic grin.
"He said that somebody who normally ran one of the ships that brings the people from Mandos to here was going to be gone for a couple of days, and so he needed to fill in,"
he concluded through a mouthful of food.
"That is disgusting,"
Haldir said.
"I am sure somewhere you have a store of manners that you could drag out."
Sauron looked at him for a moment. Then he opened his mouth and stuck out his tongue, displaying all of the half-chewed food. Haldir cringed and then sighed.
"Should have seen that coming,"
he lamented. Meanwhile, Sauron swallowed and then continued.
"Anyways, since he's going to be out of town, it's just going to be you and me for the next couple of days."
Seemingly done with his little speech to let Haldir figure out the unsaid parts of it, Sauron now leaned back on the hind legs of the chair while continuing to chow down on more of the food. Haldir groaned and let his arms fall down on the table with a loud slap. It just wasn't fair. And to make matters worse, the food smelled really good right then, and he was actually pretty hungry. Even that unpleasant display a little bit ago hadn't made the fact that his stomach was complaining loudly go away.
"Want some?"
Sauron asked, holding the tray out within reach of Haldir. Haldir looked at him suspiciously.
"Come on now. It is not like I can let you starve. I would get in tons of trouble for that, which would be a pity since I've recently been getting some amount of standing around here."
Slowly, Haldir put one hand out to take something off it, but the platter was pulled away abruptly. Sauron let the front legs of the chair come down with a clap.
"So, I won't let you starve. I will just keep you painfully hungry. That is, unless you agree to take me where I want to go."
"How about you unlock me from the chair and I take you where you want to go?"
Sauron waved his hand at the statement.
"I was planning on it. Agree?"
"Well, actually, I'd like to know where it is that I'm agreeing to take you first."
"Oh, well, you would, wouldn't you?"
"Yes."
"I need to go out to the beach."
Haldir frowned at this, trying to see how that worked exactly.
"So, you are wanting me to take you near a large body of water?"
he said slowly.
"Not so much wanting, but I need to."
"Why?"
"I need to talk to Osse."
Haldir paused.
Again, why?
Because I do!
When will you figure out that because will never work as a reason?
Sauron's grin was gone by now.
You are so frustrating, you know that? How did you live as long as you did? Did you get a lot of death threats or anything?
Actually, I didn't get any, and I'm sure that I'm not nearly as frustrating as you are.
Sauron took a second to figure out a comeback, but he got one.
Well, I guess I win in something else, don't I?
Haldir shook his head.
You have such a warped view of everything. Anyways, though, before we get completely off of topic, what are you wanting to talk to Osse about?
I'm just wanting to set up some relations with people. You know, get along and all that stuff.
Sauron finished with an expression that would have been sincere on anybody else, but since it was Sauron, Haldir instantly distrusted it.
And the first person you want to set this up with is somebody who spends about all of their time in the water?
He asked, raising a brow.
Well, actually, you see, we have some things in common.
Sauron replied.
How so?
Well, we both have a bit of an interest in violence and stuff like that.
Oh, great! Now I'm really gonna take you there.
Haldir said in exasperation. Sauron got up and leaned over the table.
You don't seem to be in much of a position to say no to taking me. You're locked to this table, and unless you want to become really good friends with it over the next couple days, you are going to take me.
Fine, I'll be friends with the table. Go see if I care.
Fine!
Sauron then stormed out of the kitchen, and Haldir, unable to do any such thing considering the state he was currently in, contented himself with yanking at the device on his leg in frustration. Not long after that, however, Sauron came back to the kitchen and grabbed the plate from the table. After giving Haldir a very snooty look, he marched back out again. All the same, however, it really ruined his exit. Haldir had gone without eating for a while before, and figured that he would be able to take going on for the rest of the day. So for the rest of the day, he went on, and although he was hungry, it wasn't anything terrible. What was really bad was that he got very bored of looking around the kitchen. That, and he had to go to the bathroom. Occasionally Sauron would come by and casually scoff at him. Haldir ignored him for the most part until that afternoon when it was getting close to where he did not have any choice. He was going to have to give in. When Sauron came by the next time after that, he called him in.
I give up. I'll go. Just tomorrow, okay?
With a triumphant grin, Sauron nodded.
Okay, get me out of this thing.
Sauron came over, taking out a key out of his pocket, then unlocking the shackle-like thing around Haldir's leg.
Where did you get that, anyways?
Haldir asked as he stood up for the first time in hours, the room spinning immediately.
I made it.
Oh, of course you would have. And I suppose it was a secret thing that nobody else knew about and that you weren't supposed to make?
Yup.
Great. I wouldn't have expected any less.
Haldir said with a sigh. He grabbed a couple of fruits out of a basket on the counter, and then made his way upstairs without another word. However, Sauron followed behind him and quickly spoke up.
So tomorrow, then?
Yes, tomorrow.
Early?
Haldir rolled his eyes.
I have a feeling that even if I wanted to go later in the day, that it would not matter at all. You would still probably steal my sheets or something annoying like that whenever it was that you were good and ready to head out.
That's a pretty fair assessment.
Sauron consented.
I knew it would be.
So, what are you doing now?
I'm going to sleep.
Even though he was turned away, Haldir could tell that Sauron was having trouble with that, and needed to figure something out about it for some reason.
But it's still light out.
He pointed finally. Haldir smirked, yet at the same time he was a bit bothered by how remarkably like a child Sauron acted at times. Such a comment was something that Haldir was sure he had heard Rúmel or Orphan say somewhere down the line, when he had watched them when they had been little.
I know it is still light out, but if you don't want me to be crabby all day tomorrow because I didn't get to sleep as much as I wanted, then I need to go to bed early tonight.
Oh,
was the only reply. And that finished it. While there was now a certain amount of peace, It was probably being paid at a higher price than he could understand at the moment, or so Haldir figured as he munched on one of the fruits. Yet at that time, he was a bit too tired to really care.